back at home. Finally meeting, holy shit, what an adventure yesterday. What an adventure this whole lifetime's been. But anyway, now that I'm back, I'm getting into all the other adventures that I've discovered I can do since moving back to the island, which is going and looking for a monster Roosevelt bull elk, which is fun as shit right now because they're in the rut. A friend of mine's got a draw tag, I might help him out maybe. Trying to fill that tag with that elk. You can't just go out and buy a tag and hunt elk in Vancouver Island. It's a lottery draw. I've been trying for 30 years. For some reason, I'm just not getting lucky in getting that tag. But I can go hunt them with the lens, which I do. I love to do it. And Sarah's been, excuse me, exercising a lot this past couple of months. Really proud of her. She's really getting into it, and she's concerned about not getting her workout in the other day. So I made her get up at 5 o'clock in the morning yesterday. Threw her in the truck, got her hiking boots, got all her stuff, and I took her up into the mountains. Well, mountains. I don't know, they're hills. What I think a mountain is different than what's around here. So we took her up into the hills. Not too far from where I steelhead fish. We've taken her ready for. And I brought the elk bugles in. We already knew the long uphill road, deactivated old logging road. I was going to take her on a hike up that road. At the same time, I knew there was big bull elk around there. I know there is one or two for sure. And I called up a bull elk. So we completed the hike, and then she got really excited, got into it, which I was hoping would happen. Because it's tough when you want to take somebody, show them that excitement. It's one thing to describe it verbally, but another to show them, have them experience it. And there's no guarantee it's going to happen when you decide to talk them into getting up at 5 in the morning, right? That's the tough thing about the outdoors and busting somebody into it and trying and hoping they're going to experience the excitement so that they do it again. Because it's, for your average person who's not into it, it's a nasty thing to do to them, right? Make him get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, bounce him down a logging road in the dark, put on hiking boots and drag him up an old logging road, right? You can't do much more to the average person to turn him off for doing that. So you want to hope you score in the exciting part. Thank God we did. Did we ever? So as we're going up, I could hear a large bull above us on the high side of the road bonking his antlers on the trees and stuff, but he wouldn't make a peep. It was too thick a brush to get him out to videotape him. But I did get a younger bull squealing at us down at the bottom of the valley. And I saw that Sarah got excited hearing that. So after we did a long hike up the mountain, I said, well, you want to go down there and pretend we're hunting? Get right up on him and get him in that direction. She's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, all right. So we went down, drove around the other side of the valley, and figured out which way the wind was going, and then we had to hike down the road, down a long strip of timber, and got right in the bottom, in the creek bottom, in the jungle. It's such a thick jungle here, and they love the jungle. They love the river bottoms, which means alder and willow and all sorts of nasty undergrowth. And if it didn't work out, we got in the timber. She had the one video camera. We're calling, and all of a sudden, it's just like guiding a hunter. She's like, there it is, there it is. You tell by her tone, I'm like, okay, be quiet, videotape. And one of the bulls ran past us and a cow we saw, and then another bull came silently right into us. You could have spit on him. It was so exciting, and I was so relieved to have it go down. Because now, my partner is also potentially hooked on that slice of adventure. Isn't that great? And she got to experience what and help understand her more of what makes me tick and why I make sure that is mandatory that I continue to do what I do. And she gets it. And she was excited too. That was really good. Really fun. So I'll share that clip with you guys right now and show you how what went down. It's coming right there, right there. scared. Don't move. It's gonna smell us any second. Meanwhile, lots is going down in the world today. As usual. Excuse me, I'm drinking my coffee. And again, I think I mentioned it before, when you do make yourself go out into the real world and spend a lot of time in the real world, arguably what the real world is between people, but as far as I'm concerned, the real world is getting outside into the mountains and the forest where we came from, where we belong, and getting in tune with our senses and our skills, our true natural senses and skills, where there's absolutely no bullshit. And I'll admit, it's been frustrating for me, taxing on my brain the past few days while I've been back, because now I am immersed in the bullshit again. And I see what's going on in our world and our society today. And it can be challenging to deal with between your ears if you give a shit. And if you are not so cluttered up and overwhelmed with BS that it's just normal. And it's not. And I hope it never will be for me, but yeah, it's very frustrating to watch what's going on. I guess I'll stop there, because I could really go on a tangent right now about what's going on in our world, in this society that's been created by us, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, what else is going on? We had to go all the way out to the coast yesterday to retrieve my inflatable boat, which I did, and make sure the other boat, the guide boat, was okay, because I had to leave there in a rush after guiding my new friends from here, Mike and his daughter from Texas, and I didn't have time to fully clean up, and I was terrified I left something on the boat, and sure enough I did, and it was a half a tub of that prefab macaroni salad that you can buy in the stores. Wasn't even any fungus growing on it in the fridge, which was turned off. I'll never buy that shit again. We got that out of there, and I forgot a brick of butter in the fridge, and that was it, thank God. Cleaned up the boat, got the inflatable boat, and started to drive home, and the truck stopped running on the main logging road. Couldn't believe it. And absolute by fluke, the only place where there was one bar of service, and I had to phone a tow truck, and we had to stay in the truck for a couple hours. Wait, sucked. I think it's a fuel pump. I'm going to fix it later today. Try to fix it myself. I replaced the fuel pump, had a mechanic do it last year, and then I left here to go up north, and as I went up north up a steep hill, 4x4, locked in, I came backing down, and there was weird stain on the snow. It was diesel. It was leaking from my gas tank where the mechanic put the new fuel pump. Not too much, but enough to let me know that he didn't put it in properly. So I'm hoping my negligence in getting on that right away caused yesterday's breakdown, and it is something related to the faulty installment of my fuel pump. I hope so. But anyways, got my inflatable back. I know I'm babbling. But this is leading up to what I'm going to do. There is monstrous old bears running around this neighborhood and down on the river everywhere. Everywhere. And the season's open again, and once again I'm going to pursue that monstrous old past its prime bear, and I'm going to harvest one. I tried in the spring, I didn't find the right one. But I do know of a couple near here, and I'm going to float my inflatable down the river with my boat, with the tripod and the camera on the boat, and I'm going to videotape and share with everybody my adventure. Also, possibly leading up to that successful hunt with my bow and a monstrous old past its prime bear. And I will utilize everything from that bear. That's the plan. So, in the meantime, voices to be heard. Very important besides my annoying voice. Excuse me. So, I don't have time for shit. I really need to go back and get organized and find older emails that haven't been read, because due to the failure of my past phone, which got blanked out with over 2,000 saved unread emails from my inbox. And that is the reason why we have to sift through them and coming across repeats. There's going to be no way out of it. But we'll get them. We'll get them. Something else I had to share, but I'm blanking out, so worry about that later. I've got computer problems that I have to fix. All sorts of shit. Our chickens out back. Remember that cute little mink that I recorded last summer bouncing across my backyard here? Next thing you know, he was in the shop, and I recorded him in the shop. Well, the little bastard decided he liked our meat birds, and he killed, I think, 17 meat chickens and baby chickens and turkeys while I was away. Very frustrating. So now I have to find some mesh that a mink can't fit in and rewire that whole coop. And Sarah moved all of them across to the other coop where the laying hens are to save what we got left. Unfortunate, but another to-do list in my face out that window. The ruthless little bugger's right. He was killing 2 a night. And then he ramped it up. Babbling. Alright, here's an older one. This is an older email from the inbox. I don't know if it's been read or not. I hope not, but side note, I believe there is something upwards of 1,000 new subscribers here every 2 days currently. How and why, I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. I don't know how it works. We do not promote this channel in any way. I've never promoted this channel on my social media pages ever. I don't even make mention of it. I just continue with the hunting and fishing knowledge that I like to provide to my fellow outdoors people. And I try to promote that. I try to promote the real world, the hunting and fishing. And this topic dominates this channel right now. Is just something you cannot promote. It only gets popular with those it directly affects, as far as I'm concerned. I think. So, how is there 1,000 new subscribers here every 2 days? I haven't a clue. I don't know. And I do know as well, too, take note, I do not unsubscribe anyone. And there's people getting unsubscribed from here all the time. I don't do it. And I do not install ads. I don't install advertisement ads. Some people email me and say, cool it with the ads. I have no control. YouTube installs ads wherever they want, whenever they want, and they do it to monetized and non-monetized channels. A lot of channels I'm aware of where people are speaking truth, hardcore truth, and they're relentless. YouTube and the government go after them. They're hand in hand. And they say they are demonetized, but they still have the ads playing on their content. So there you go. It's not the content producers that make the ads or install them, alright? So if you're frustrated with me, quit it. Well, I shouldn't say quit it. Teach your own, but it's you're wasting energy. Okay. Let's hear somebody else besides me. There's an older email entitled Hunting and Sasquatch. Hello, thank you for this opportunity. The COVID virus has allowed me to spend time on YouTube. I am a CEO of a company, so please do not use my name. Not that I care, but the company would. Call me Pete. I'm 64 years old and I grew up in southeastern BC in the East Kootenays and have hunted and fished since I could hold a rod then a rifle. I spent most of my life in the bush year-round, not just hunting season, paying attention, herd movements relative to any season, shed hunting, and looking for winter kill in the spring of the year and watching to my dismay the decimation of ungulates by wolves. Well, you're probably familiar with my face on that topic then. Listening to a bunch of, quote, Grant slurping hippies, end quote, tell me about the benefits of non-regulated wolf populations. The mule deer seem to have taken the hardest hit first. I couldn't believe how quickly the numbers tumbled. Anyway, I have hunted and fished in every drainage within 100 miles of my hometown. I literally have thousands of days and hundreds of nights in the Rocky Mountains. Like all serious hunters, we've had our moments with predators. I've been through 2 grizzly charges and 1 cat, excuse me, up to and no good that I had to shoot while elk hunting. Oh, sorry, let me read that more smoother. I've been through 2 grizzly charges and 1 cat, up to no good, that I had to shoot while elk hunting. Each instance scared the living crap out of me, and it rocked me. Each one was over so fast that when it was over, you had to relive and rethink it. For me, each instance created an adrenaline shake through my entire body. It is important to state this, to what I'm about to say, in perspective. The difference between the effects of a bad predator encounter and what I believe is a Sasquatch encounter. Okay, man, gotcha. And just so you know, side note before we get around that story, I know that feeling. I know that feeling. I've had a handful of real close ones where I should have been chewed up and squeezed out the butthole of a grizzly bear and more, but for some weird reason I'm still here. And it's funny, you don't experience the fear and the dread until it's over. Everything goes into slow motion, and then afterwards is when you start trembling and falling apart. It's a really weird experience. For me, anyway. On to Sasquatch encounters. I have had encounters, yet never seen one. The encounters are in 3 different locations. Their first one is an area that had low ridge at about 4,000 feet at an old logging landing. You could see across the logged off area for about 200 yards in a 180-degree arc. The edge of the clearing, a fairly mature spruce forest, stood erect. What we would call the black timber, a great place for elk. We went back to this area 5 times over the course of the elk season to bugle or cow elk call. We were successful with 1, sometimes 3 different bulls responding. Every time within 1 or 2 responding bugles, there would be a loud whack, like a baseball bat hitting a dead snag. You could tell that the noise of the loud whacks was between us and the elk. Then the knocking would continue from 2 to 3 different locations within the tall black timber. The bulls would immediately become silent. After 4 to 9 whacks, this would stop. Twice my partner and I crossed into the black timber and found nothing but moss on trees. What we did find was that the moment we went into the big timber, we were both overcome with a sense of being watched. The further we went in, the worse it got. It changed from being watched to, quote, to leave, end quote. It was not a sense of doom or death, but just leave. It was overwhelming. We both felt the same way. We were not panicked or ready to run, but we knew we had to leave. There was a strangeness about it, like we were retreating. That's the best word to describe it. When we talked about this back at the landing, we knew then, as we do now, that there are no words to describe the feeling. I call it pressure. The second encounter was in a creek bottom, about an hour after dark in late September. We had built a good fire at our camp that was about 15 yards from a creek. 5 of us were sitting around talking of the day's hunt. It was our last night, and we were having a few road pops with a few crude jokes and laughing. There was a momentary lull in our antics when directly across the creek from us, a loud, and I mean loud, shriek let go. It was close. Nobody moved or said anything. Nobody had ever heard anything like it. Everyone looked at each other like, quote, does anybody have any ideas as to what the F that was, end quote. The feeling was not like the tree whack area. This seemed angry. It was strange that it was only talked about for a few brief moments, then avoided. The evening didn't last too much longer. First thing in the morning, we all pulled out. No one wanted to hunt there. Pretty odd for 5 dudes, right? The third encounter was about 100 yards from a thick creek bottom. Again with my lifelong hunting partner, again during elk season. It had been a fairly warm day, and we were confident that the elk we were after would be in the cool creek bottom. It was early evening, and there was a low, round ridge between us and the creek, just enough to give us cover from prying eyes. Because we were so close to the creek, I turned 180 degrees from the creek and bugled in the opposite direction. Immediately, at the end of my bugle, from the creek bottom came a long, bellowing roar, like nothing I or he had ever heard. There was such a ferocity and the strength in the roar that it overwhelmed us. You could feel it inside your body. This was more than angry. This struck fear. I threw up my .338 and told myself, get ready. My partner threw up his rifle and we waited. Okay, for all those who aren't familiar, a .338 is a very large caliber rifle. A .338 is enough to pound any polar bear. All right, a .338 would kill an elephant. Just so you know. Oops. Both of us struggling with the thought of, what the hell was that? Then there was a loud crash of something and then nothing, just silence. I'm a confident person and have confidence in my rifle, but not that day. I've taken an 8'2" grizzly and many elk with that rifle, but I knew that it was not adequate for what was 100 yards away. That's crazy. See, that for me is, I haven't experienced that body vibrating roar. I haven't experienced that. Do I want to? Not by the sounds of it. I've already been intimidated in the woods a few times. I don't like feeling that intimidation in the woods. It's not a good feeling, and I don't want it to get worse and destroy it for me, right? So many people have described this sound as shaking your body, and just from the sound, you know that a cannon of a rifle, isn't going to do anything. That sounds so bizarre, and it's such a hard thing to imagine and try to picture without being there, right? Like, for me, picturing a rifle that will kill an elephant in my hands and knowing that that rifle isn't going to do anything to what's making that sound. I'm just trying to get across to everyone how intimidating that's got to be. The sound of that roar has got to be absolute insanity, if that was a level. Right? You picking up what I'm putting down, how I have a curiosity of this roar, but I don't. I believe people like this are putting me there accurately, and they are also convincing me, without trying to, that I probably don't want to have that experience of that roar. Not me. Sorry for that little interruption. What I find important about these 3 events is not so much the circumstance, but the deep feeling inside with each encounter. For all of us, when we encounter something, anything of magnitude, we enjoy sharing the event. Not so when it comes to this. It is like when you have met something that has outclassed you or superior to you. You've been put in your place, outmatched. You tend to become quiet or humbled by the experience. So, when you're brave to tell your story and some asshole mocks you, it hits you in a different way. Nobody boasts of any encounter. It's a sobering event. When I listen to the stories from hunters, it's not the glittering high five or an awesome bull or massive buck, but the story of, quote, "I've seen something that scared me, humbled me, got inside me," end quote. It is not the elusiveness, size, or strength of the being that is worrisome and impressive, but their ability to project into your very soul. This, I believe, is the point. It is not what you have seen or heard that affects so much, but how it got inside of you. It cannot be explained properly. Only when you speak with someone who has had an experience can it be understood. I never want to see one or feel its presence again. In closing, I've tried to go back and hunt these 3 areas. It doesn't work. When I grab my kit and my rifle and try to go back into of these areas, I don't make it too far and turn around as the feeling comes back. I have no problem going to where I had a grizzly charge or my cougar problem and hunting, but not in the above mentioned areas. Those are taboo. Not so much from what happened, but what took place inside of me. P.S. Thank you. I was able to get this out for me. For the bastards that try to give you a hard time, I like the way you told them to piss off. I hope this didn't become a short novel. Thoughts. Number 1. You mentioned that why do bow hunters tend to have more encounters than anyone else? I don't remember saying that or feeling that. But anyway, irrelevant. As a bow hunter, you know we hunt in different terrain. If we can see 50 yards, we're happy. So we tend to be in the thicker shit. Our skills are closer, much like any predator, so we tend to run into our own kind. Rifle hunting, we tend to be in a more open country. We're the only animal that can long-range kill. To take advantage of this, we are in areas more easily spotted or seen. Number 2. I was keenly involved in martial arts for a number of years. One of the instructors I spent time with was a South Korean who was a former instructor with their special forces. We talked a lot about the projection of thought. I have applied this to hunting. He would say that in order to take out a sentry or guard, when you spot them from a distance, never look directly at them. Look at a branch above their head or the ground beneath their feet. If you look directly at them, regardless of the time of day or night, their subconscious will automatically become more aware. Your thoughts have been projected. It works great on animals as well. Maybe it's what the Sasquatch does to us. Number 3, hitting 2 sticks together. When I was a little kid, maybe 10 years old, I was playing in my grandmother's house. She was Cree. I was banging 2 sticks together. She stopped me and told me to come and listen. She said, "This is very dangerous. It can scare off danger, but it can bring the beast of the forest. So never do that unless you have to. Because the hairy beast will come and get you, and we will never see you again." I've seen your YouTube of the people who said that the beings were banging sticks together outside their tent, and it made me think of my grandmother's warning. Also, my grandmother's people know and accept that the beings exist. End of email. Alright, those 1, 2, 3 last parts, I remember reading that, so I did read this. And I think this is a valuable email to reread, now that I've read it. Big time. Anyway, the pressure, man. So for me, I've told people all the time, don't quit going in the woods. Don't quit going in the woods. And if you have something happen where you felt the pressure or had a scary experience, so you go back, make sure you go back and test it like you did, like this author tested it. He went back, feelings came back, he left. Perfect, done deal. There you go. And you got to go back, like meaning you got to go there, do the test, and you got to turn around and leave and go back to where you came from. Perfect. That's what we want, right? I know you're in there, you know I'm here, let's just leave each other alone and get on with it and not ruin it for each other. Perfect. And then you go somewhere else, but you don't quit. Alright, you just go somewhere else. And if you're going to go try it back there again, maybe they moved off, maybe they're gone, maybe whatever is there or however they got there is gone or shuffled off somewhere else now, and you can go and hang out there again and hunt. You never know. I've done it before. Not that often, but I've done it. And I've managed to go where I've been pressured away from in the past, including the stand. Remember, you guys, that stand that I built years ago? And I had those experiences right there, and I never went back. Man, I think it must have been, I don't know how long. I'd have to sit here and think about it for a bit and figure it out, but I'm guessing I didn't go back to that stand for probably something like 6 years anyway. Maybe more, I don't know. Until I took you guys there and I went alone. But I went in early spring when there's no leaves and you can see a little farther, right? Not that would make a difference. But I went in there and I took the video camera and I showed you guys the stand. And I also hung that chunk of rotting meat up in the air and put trail cameras there because I knew I would get a big grizzly bear on the camera. I did that too. So that means I went back in there twice because I had to go retrieve the camera. Sure enough, there's a big grizzly bear with basically both of his ears ripped off, jumping up in front of the camera. But that's it. I've been back there since. But I felt cool going in there then. Although your senses are on high alert, I didn't feel the pressure. The pressure is real. How do they get inside of us? I don't know. How do they freak our soul out? I haven't a clue. No, I shouldn't say that. The hows and the whys are becoming a little more clear for me and my puzzle pieces. Let's just put it that way. And I'll share more once I do meet up with the people I intend on meeting up with. And I believe that's going to fill in a lot of my puzzle, which has been getting a lot smaller, the gaps. But again, on that note, a different note, the puzzle pieces, meeting up with people. I have had confirmation when I asked people who allegedly are in communication with these people. I'm calling it people. I don't give a shit what anybody says. They are some flavor of a people. 110%. Very easy to figure out. If we can accurately find out what human group of individuals is actively seeking these beings out and killing them, if we could figure that out, that would basically answer everything. Right? Don't you think? Because this group of human beings that are allegedly seeking out and killing these beings, they know something. What's their motivation? Why are they killing them? Why are they absolutely secreted from society? Right? Do you see what I'm getting at? If one of these human beings ever came forward and proved that they are who they are, without a doubt, and shared why they're doing what they're doing, I believe our puzzles would instantly be filled in right to the last piece. So, let's see what happens. So I have had a couple characters in the past try to contact me, try to convince me that they're killing these beings, and one guy even said, "Oh, yeah, a flamethrower is really effective on them." And then I kind of mocked that one. How can't you? That wacko even went to trying to torment me online, and he even went to try to shame Dave Plattis for being in contact with me. Yeah, didn't need not much more to confirm that the guy was just a loopy son of a gun, right? Oh, and then he tried to send me a picture of a scorched something on a gurney. God. Anyway, why am I wasting time on that? Moving along. Sorry. Alright. Who's next? Here's a recent one. This is titled, Second Sighting in North Wales. North Wales, it's going to be the United Kingdom, right? Hello again, Steve. My name is Simon. I live in North Wales. Thank you for your continued presence online and for giving so many people the opportunity to release their story. No problem, man. It's too easy. I never thought I'd be writing in again about another sighting, but here I am. You may or may not recall I emailed you in 2022 about a sighting I had in December of 2020. Also in North Wales, explaining that I'd watched a large figure go out of focus and then disappear and then run through darkened woods and then hear a pheasant being killed with a thud. That was my first encounter, which took a long time to process. My second encounter was 12 months ago, and it was 2 weeks before we flew from the UK to the Caribbean for a holiday. The reason I mention this is because I was only really thinking and talking to my wife about the holiday at the time while walking in the woods this particular day. So myself, my wife, and the dog are walking up a trail which was overgrown with high ferns in places, enjoying the sun, nature, and fresh air as we headed to an area which gave stunning views over the valleys. My wife and dog were a few paces ahead of me at this point, and in my peripheral vision I saw movement. I looked left to see a large figure with what looked like it stepping over something as the leg was raised unnaturally high. I'd already started moving my head forwards to see where I was going when my brain started the processing of what I'd just seen. I immediately stopped, turned my body 90 degrees to the left, and looked at this large all-black figure, which was also now stationary and about 100 meters away. Initially, on this first glance, I thought, wow, he's a big guy. Why is he not on any path and walking through the ferns, which is unusual? So now I'm stationary. My wife hasn't noticed me stop and continues uphill. Now I'm looking directly at this figure which had been walking towards me. Not away, but towards me. I plant my feet and do not move them. I bend my knees, swivel my hips in an attempt to get a better view as a couple of branches were between us both. I can only guess, but I think I was looking at this figure for about 40 seconds. It's absolutely motionless. I looked at it for that long, then I started to think my eyes had played tricks on me, and it was an overturned tree, and I'm looking at its roots. Why would a person just stop motionless like this? Was what I was thinking. I'm now confused because it looks like a figure, but it can't be, as the head is just too big, so it must be an overturned tree. As I said, I planted my feet and did not move an inch except for hip and knee bend. I'll look to see where my wife is and look straight back at this thing, and I'll compare her head size to the size of this thing's head. I did exactly that. I glanced at my wife, who's now about 100 meters away, continuing uphill, and looked straight back at the figure. A fraction of a second, Steve. A half a second at the most. Gone, nothing there. Completely gone, no sound at all. Said thousands of other people, dude. Thousands. I stood there for a short while in disbelief, trying to process it all before I caught my wife up. It was black. I couldn't see any features at all. I couldn't see any eyes. And why I probably thought it was a tree. It was like my mind played a trick on me. It's difficult to explain. Its head was 3 times bigger than my wife's. This thing was about 100 meters away. And that also about how far away my wife was at the time, going in the opposite direction. I guess its height was 7 feet tall. I'm 6 foot and 14 stone, or just under 200 pounds. It looked heavy. I'm guessing 25 stone, or over 350 pounds. I remember I thought I was looking at a tree at some point, so these are not exaggerations. I now film on my phone when I'm in the woods and review back in slow motion Zoom app. I've attached stills from some films. These stills are of things that have moved. I've attached stills from some films. These stills are of things that have moved, ruling out pareidolia, Steve. They aren't great pictures, and I didn't see any of them until I reviewed the footage at home. Has anyone else filmed something that they just didn't see? It's happened a few times now. Good luck with the tech. I know it can be infuriating to get set up. Once again, thank you for your platform. Best wishes, Simon. Simon, appreciate you, man. These are stills, right? Not video. And hopefully I will be able to include these, because this camera is not autofocus, so I can't just stuff this in front of the lens, right? To share them this way, it won't work. It takes time, and I gotta stop. It's not gonna work in that camera. So I've got a footprint, couple of weird images. Yeah, same old shit, blurry. It's just the way it goes. That's what happens with this topic. Yeah. All right, there you go. North. Call it again. Sorry, get a little messed up here. North Wales in the UK. There's sightings around the globe. For all and any people in the United Kingdom who want to potentially mock this person, just so you know, yes, they are there around you. No way of escaping it. And there's no way for you to dictate to the world that, oh, no, there's no Bigfoot in the United Kingdom. Sorry, they're there. Thanks for sharing, man. Appreciate you. All right. Who's next? Alright, this one's not too long. I'm going to share this one more, and then I'm going to have to get on with my day, alright? This is titled 4 Strange Experiences, bracket, infant, end bracket, resent. Alright. Hi Steve, it's okay to use my name. Ronald Kleinow. Kleinow, K-L-E-I-N-O-W. I have 4 different events I'd like to share. I'm from northeastern Iowa in the US. And here's something I haven't heard on the channel, and I've been a listener for a few years. My first story is when I was about 10 years old. Came across something moving in the weeds along a railroad track. When I looked to see what it was, I was very confused. It looked like a baby monkey. When I turned it over, I realized it wasn't a monkey, but it was something I'd never seen before. When I turned it over, it looked like a baby human with no neck and hair over most of its body. It had fingers and toes with fingernails and toenails. The bottom of its feet, hands, and face were light gray skin. Its belly and chest had a very light covering of hair. Its nose had slightly larger, flared nostrils, and its eyes were very dark with no white. It did not have any teeth, and I did not notice any ears or genitalia. It was very muscular, like a squirrel. It seemed to be sick. It had a lot of phlegm coming from its nose and was having trouble breathing. Of course, like most curious kids, I carried it home to show my mom. When she saw it, she had no idea what it was and had never seen anything like it before. This is in the early 70s, and we didn't have any knowledge of, quote, Bigfoot, end quote. I remember something else very strange about it. When you looked into its eyes, you started to feel deep empathy, and then it would quickly turn to fear. You couldn't look into its eyes very long. Well, it died after a few hours, and I buried it. I know within about 3 to 4 feet where I buried it, but it is today on the grounds of a historical museum. I doubt there'd be anything left after 50 years. That is a holy shit story right there, right? Wow. My second story took place around the same time. It happened when riding the school bus to school one morning. The school bus took us by a farm on the gravel road where I always looked in the pasture area that had a small orchard. That morning when I was looking into this pasture, I became absolutely scared to death. I saw something that I never noticed before. It looked like a very big tree trunk standing by the orchard. I couldn't figure out why I had never seen it before and why that scared the hell out of me. I mean, it was real fear, a complete adrenaline rush, shaking me to the core. So bad that I could hardly hang on to my books. When riding the bus home, I was almost afraid to look, but I forced myself to, and the tree trunk wasn't there. I then just wrote it off thinking I had some kind of health event or something. I never told anyone about this. My third story, in the early 80s, I trapped for a few years. I always took a break and had some lunch at a railroad bridge where after a fresh snow the scenery was stunning. It overlooked a bottom where the Bloody Run Stream, that's caps, that's a name, the Bloody Run Stream, ran up against a hillside, and as it approached the railroad bridge, the hill turned into a large cliff formation. It was very beautiful, almost mesmerizing. In that bottom there were some trees. In that bottom, there were some trees that appeared to have fallen together, forming a sort of a teepee-looking structure. But there was something at the top that didn't look right. So one day I just walked over to have a look. When I was looking it over, I was so confused when I saw what made it look strange. One of the trees had a root ball in the top of the structure. I then started looking closer, but I didn't find any stumps or root balls. These trees were brought there. Over the hill from this bottom, there is a hollow that is very creepy. It is scary quiet and feels like you're being watched, but you can't tell where it's coming from. It feels like it is all around you and there is no wildlife there, no trails, no nothing. However, the place doesn't instill fear. There's a logging road going through this hollow, and a local group ride horses through the area, and they drop down off that hill in a nasty spot where they slide down the bottom portion of the hill right into the Bloody Run stream. I asked one of the riders I knew why they didn't use the road. He knew exactly where I was talking about, and he said the horses would not go into that hollow. Interesting. My fourth story, in the late 80s. I was clearing off some logging roads on a farm where I lived and had a very strange experience. I became overcome with fear and the feeling of being watched. I shut the chainsaw off and looked around. It was absolutely silent, but I did not see any threat. I couldn't see anything, and I decided to finish cutting a tree off the road. I started to saw again and started to cut, but again I was overcome by this absolute fear, just like the fear I experienced riding a school bus when I was a kid. It was so intense that I could hardly get back to the truck and get out of there. It made me feel like I was having some kind of health issues. I returned to the area many times and had no issues. Steve, you shared a couple of stories from my area, and I believe February 23. They're from northeast Iowa. The Yellow River Forest and the Effigy Mounds area, which are just a stone's throw away from me in the McGregor area. Their stories really encouraged me to share my story. Thanks to everyone sharing their experiences on this channel, I was able to connect these experiences. It is very strange that we don't share or talk about these experiences. I did ask my mom, Christmas of 22, if she remembered the animal I brought home when I was a kid, and she did, and described it exactly the way I remembered it. I would also like to mention that the feelings of being watched are very strange. In the past, when I had those feelings, I had no trouble identifying the direction of the voyeur. But in these experiences I have just shared, it was like there was no direction. It just surrounded you. Thanks, Steve, and keep up the great work. Wow. That's a holy shit story right there. Isn't it? And then I wonder how many people are still here that still think, well, you didn't vet them. You didn't vet this person. You'll just believe anything. You know, right away, my gut's not burning with alarm reading this email at all. And I'm not here to judge in the first place anyway. I don't even know I'm mentioning that. But one thing that I always enters my head is, could you imagine waking up in the morning and thinking to yourself, oh gee, I wonder, I just need some attention. I wonder what I could make up this morning, write down, and send to this guy on YouTube, because I need that attention. Said frickin' nobody ever, right? Imagine coming up with that story, making up that as bullshit. I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, the one big question would be, how does a potential creature, we don't know what that was he found, but it sure sounds familiar with some of the patterns involved in the feelings, right? In the eyes. So, that would make me think that possibly this is in relation to the beings, the people that seem to be dominating the topic on this channel. How did it get left behind? Where did everybody else go? Where did the community, the group, the family, whatever its mother, where did they go, and why didn't that little being go with them? What separated them? How was he left behind? Right? How was that little being left behind? Was there a door that shut behind somebody? Was there a door that shut behind everybody? One in absolute million billion circumstance led to this potential little being left behind. Weird one, right? What a crazy story, man. Wow. Anyway, I'm glad you emailed us. If you learn of something else, obviously in the future, or anyone else around you in your circle, get them to contact us and share with us what they got, all right? Because every little tidbit counts. Every single little tidbit counts that comes our way, because it adds to our valuable patterns, right? We take from each of these experiences what we will or we leave it. But there's no getting out of it. It adds to the existing patterns that we've formed here through all the people's testimonies from around the planet, right? Anyway, here we go. Off to the rest of my day. And just so you guys know, I actually, when I wake up in the morning, I can't wait to get in here and do this. This is a very big part of my life. I love it. It helps me immensely. The knowledge shared, the experiences, the patterns, the puzzle pieces. It's a very, very large, important part of my life. And I absolutely enjoy doing it. I feel I must do it. Somebody's got to do it. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. It's funny as you watch, it is funny on a side note, as I watch and observe sometimes, the odd time, how this ride is going for various individuals who have put a lot of energy into trying to stop this here. And I've watched what's come of them, and so far straight across the board, it isn't anything good. Right? It isn't anything good. For some reason, if you take part in trying to stop and dismantle this, what we've created here, 100% across the board so far, it has ended in a negative. It's had a negative result for the people that try to do that. I wonder why. It's odd to watch for me. I take note of it. It's like, wow, well, usually it goes another person on their way to their own demise, on their own doing, or whatever they're doing. Nothing to do with us. But it happens. It happens to them. It's an interesting note. Anyway, I'm all over the map this morning, aren't I? I got high energy. My brain is ripping in 16 million different directions. I have a lot of enthusiasm in my blood right now. Anticipation. I got a lot of fun shit I want to do, and I got to get going, and I got to go do it. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. That is where you're going to get everything you got heard word for word, no matter what. And you will not be ridiculed. You will not be made fun of. You found your people. All right? There's a note. What else? I think that's about it. Sarah's got a whole bunch of new stuff in her store. Again, it's all her. It's her effort, her time, her enthusiasm, and her money. And she's got a bunch of stuff there for everybody. And I know she's got a bunch of new things she's working on too. I think she's got to get through her current stock in the store, which seems to go nonstop. People enjoy its quality, and she does everything by hand, so it's guaranteed it's out the door real fast in quality. There you go. Enough of my rambling. I got a lot to share, a lot to do. Later.